Welcome back. My name is Brian, and this is Freight Boss. Let's get started. Before we dive into dispatching, we need to briefly go over some of the industry fundamentals. During this brief module, we are going to discuss the types of equipment used in the freight industry. You must be familiar with the types of equipment being used before you can begin dispatching. Let's get started. These are examples of different types of trailers that are used in the freight industry. You don't need to know every detail about all equipment, however, you should at least be familiar with them. Let's take a closer look at the different types of trailers. Then we will discuss a few basics that you will need to know. Enjoy!
Okay, so you just saw some different types of equipment, and these are the abbreviations for them. Now you're going to see these abbreviations a lot on a load board, but you're not going to see all of them all the time. Things like hopper bottom, heavy hauler, animal carrier, extendable. You're not going to see those very often. There are about 6 or 7 that you will see on a regular basis, and those are in your packet, and there's a little description about each one of them to give you a little more information. I do suggest that you do learn as much as you can about the top 6 or 7, and that would be dry van, reefer, flatbed, box truck, hot shot, and then maybe some of the different flatbeds, because they do have several different kinds of flatbeds. I would check those out, and I've included some in the training packet if you want to see these. So this is a rundown of the popular ones. So you've got box truck, dry van, flatbed, step deck, Conestoga, and removable gooseneck, along with your lowboy and your reefer. So, and tanker. So it does outline on here a little bit about each one of those, gives the dimension, gives the max capacity. So this is a handy little sheet. You might want to keep that somewhere, pretty close by when you're bidding or when you're looking for lanes of freight, because it's a lot of information on that little bit of paper. So that's that, and I hope that you got something out of that. And now let's do a little bit of the specifics of the truck. All right, so now that you've seen the different types of equipment that we have, I'd like to just point out a couple things on the dry van itself. Each set of equipment has different measurements and can hold different capacities. One thing that you have to know is a trailer cannot legally hold over 80,000 pounds. So, what that means is you need to take the weight of the vehicle empty and subtract that from 80,000 pounds. And that will give you the max weight that you can load onto a trailer. Now, with dry vans and reefers, it's usually between 42 and 45,000 pounds. So you can't put 60,000 pounds on a dry van or a reefer. This stuff's important because as you're bidding on freight, the weight doesn't matter a whole lot while you're bidding, but it does matter to the driver depending on where he's going and what he's got to haul. So always keep the weight in mind because the more full a truck is, the harder it is to slow down. It can affect your acceleration going up and down mountains and hills. And it can also throw your load off and make the trailer unstable. So this is what a trailer looks like on the inside, and then obviously this is a picture of the outside. So if you look to the right, that is a trailer with swing doors. Those are the preferred doors of most shippers. Now the other type is roll up. So it basically rolls up just like a garage door does. The reason they prefer the swing doors is because it provides more space to enter the trailer. Whereas a trailer with roll up doors has an entrance that's about 6 inches more narrow. So it is harder to load, especially on the end. And that's why they prefer the swing doors. Plus, the truck can back all the way up to the dock and close up the seal. If you look to the left, this is a picture of an empty trailer. Now, there's not much to see here, but for those of you who have never seen an empty trailer and never actually, dealt with this kind of stuff, this is exactly what it looks like. And these metal things on the side there, that is where you put what you call load. Well, people call them different things, but basically what it is that's like a long metal pole that you can stick in either side. And when you stick two of them together, it allows you to stack freight on top of other freight without mashing it and crushing it. So if you ever need to double stack something, if the pallets are light enough and they're not too tall, you can double stack. Now we call them load bars. People call them different things, but they go into those little grooves right there. As you can see, everything else is aluminum inside the truck. The newer trucks are going to be aluminum. Usually the only wood you'll see is on the floor, if any. On the newer trucks, the older ones are all wood. Shippers do prefer that trailers be 10 years old or newer for various reasons. Do all of them require it? No, they do not. So, just to touch on a couple things real quick before we switch gears. So, these are your measurements for a typical dry van. Now, as you can see, the length is going to be 53 feet. That's the standard size, okay? So, it's a red flag for you if, let's say, your driver has a 48 foot, because it's going to be much harder to find loads. Not impossible. People still make good livings with dry vans that are 48 feet, but you have to remember that when you're doing full truckload, the shipper is basically renting the whole truck, okay? So he wants to use up all the space in the truck and maximize his space. Well, if he's planning on you having a 53-foot truck and you show up with a 48, there's going to be a problem, right? So also remember that a lot of these measurements are from the top of the truck to the ground, okay? Because there is a space. A dock is 4 feet high, so 48 inches, okay? That's a standard dock size. So when you're looking at the trailers and it says it's 13 feet tall, well, is it 13 feet tall? No. It technically is 13 feet tall, but the opening isn't 13 feet between the doors. So you're looking at about 96 inches, only counting the doors, the space that you can enter. So if you look in your packet, there's going to be specs for every type of truck and piece of equipment. So obviously, I'm not going to go over each and every one. However, some of this stuff is pretty good. Now, the last thing I want to show you about a truck is this. How many of you know how many pallets go on a truck? It's kind of a tricky question. I'll tell you why. The standard answer is 24, right? But the real answer is 26 pallets can fit on a truck. Now, how does that happen? So, there's a couple industry terms that you need to know. One is pinwheel, and the other is half pinwheel. Now, when you look at a pallet, it's 40 by 48, okay? The reason that a pallet isn't square is because the trailer isn't square. And the reason that they stop at 40 inches is so if you put the pallets on either side all the way down, you can still walk in between them and you can check off your pallets, right? If they were both 48, if they were 48 by 48, there would be no way to get to the back of the trailer to check off your stuff, and it would just be all blocked up, and it'd be very hard to load and unload. So, let's say that for whatever reason you're having trouble, or the dock people are having trouble getting everything on the truck. They can do what's called a half pinwheel. Now, that means that on one side of the truck, they're going to turn all the pallets sideways. Now, if you want to do the math, you'll find that once you put on the 12 pallets, it's going to leave you enough space for the 13th pallet, because you're going to save 8 inches each time you turn it sideways. So, as we've discussed, it's 40 inches, right? So, you're going to gain enough room to put another pallet on. Now, when I said a truck will hold 26 pallets, that's because I was referring to the full pinwheel. Full pinwheel means all the way down the truck, everything is stacked in sideways. That takes longer to load and unload, unless you're tricky. If you're good on a forklift, you can do it at about the same time. But if they're going to do a pinwheel, add about a half hour to the load and unload. Also, when they do pinwheels, be cautious of that, because it is harder to load and unload, and you have to make sure if you use the load bars and you double stack that you have to put them closer together, because it's not taking up as much real estate. So just keep that in mind, and you'll be in good shape. Now, does all of this really affect bidding or making an offer on a load or accepting a load? Absolutely, it does. Everything matters. So the more industry information that you have, the better off you're going to be. So we're not going to look at the other trailers right now, but remember that your materials packet will have all the information in it that you need. And of course, I'm always available if you need me. Hope you guys got something out of this module, and we will move on to the next one. I'll see y'all there.